The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are is a broadcast you're not even aware you're sending. Here's the paradox. The more desperate you are to manifest something, the more the universe pulls away, not out of punishment, but out of confusion. It can't decode mixed signals. And that's the trap most people fall into. You think you're asking clearly, but you're not. You're broadcasting from fear, from lack, from neediness, and expecting abundance to answer your call. Let me tell you a short story. A woman stands on a cliff with a flare gun in her hand. She wants to be rescued, so she fires the flare high into the sky. But as the smoke begins to rise, the wind picks up, and the message distorts. What was once a clear signal becomes a blur of smoke in the clouds. The rescue helicopter flying above sees something, but it's not clear what. Is it danger? Is it celebration? Is it a mistake? So they fly past. That's what happens every time you send out a flare from a chaotic emotional state. You want clarity, but your frequency is noise. And the universe, just like the helicopter, can't respond to what it doesn't understand. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is that no one told you the rules. They told you to think positive, to visualize, to ask, and you shall receive. But they didn't tell you what you were actually doing when you asked. They didn't explain that your asking isn't verbal, it's vibrational, and vibrations don't lie. You can say, "I'm abundant," 1,000 times a day. But if your body is humming the frequency of fear, if your nervous system is looping on doubt, and your heart is clenched in anxiety, then you are not asking for abundance. You are embodying scarcity, and embodiment always overrides intention. This is the collapse point of most people's manifestations. They follow the steps, they do the vision board, they journal, they meditate, but nothing happens. Or worse, the opposite happens. Why? Because their frequency is split. One part of them wants it, the other part doesn't believe it's possible. And that internal incoherence becomes an impossible message to deliver. The universe and a perfectly intelligent vibrational field receives only one kind of instruction: energetic coherence. Anything less than that is static, like a radio station trying to broadcast 2 songs at once. You hear noise, not music. Now pause here and ask yourself this. What are you actually broadcasting right now? Not what you're saying, not what you're writing in your manifestation journal, but what your body is being. Are you relaxed or tense, open or guarded, trusting or subtly skeptical? Because the field isn't listening to your mind, it's listening to your state. And this is where it gets quantum. In quantum physics, there's a principle known as the superposition. It says a particle exists in all possible states until it is observed. It is everywhere and nowhere, until something collapses it into form. Now apply that to your life. Your desire, the new job, the love, the healing, the abundance, already exists in potential. It's real. It's floating in the infinite field of probabilities, but it's waiting to be collapsed into your reality. And the only thing with the power to collapse it is your frequency of observation. But here's the twist. If you observe with doubt, you collapse the version where it doesn't happen. If you observe with contradiction, wanting but not believing, visualizing but fearing, you collapse a distorted outcome, one that looks nothing like what you asked for. That's why it feels like the universe is ignoring you. But it's not. It's just matching your dominant signal, even if that signal is unintentional. This is why manifestation often feels like a betrayal. You try so hard. You invest emotional energy, mental focus, spiritual intention, and yet, nothing. So you begin to mistrust the process. You start believing it only works for special people, or that it's not your time yet, or that you're doing something wrong. And that belief creates the next signal. It reinforces the incoherence, and the cycle continues. But the truth is far more empowering than you've been told. Because it's not that manifestation isn't working, it's that it's always working. The field is responding perfectly, just not to what you want. It's responding to what you're being, every moment, without fail. Let's go deeper. Neuroscience shows us that 95% of your thoughts and emotional patterns are unconscious, meaning you might be affirming your desires with 5% of your awareness, while broadcasting the opposite with 95%. That's not just misalignment. That's a complete override. You can't outthink a nervous system locked in survival. You can't outjournal a heart that's closed in protection. You can't outvisualize a body addicted to lack. Your entire system has to shift, and that starts with recognizing the paradox. Desire alone is not enough, because desire without coherence creates confusion in the field. Now, here's the part most people never tell you. You don't manifest what you want, because want is already a state of not having. You manifest what you embody, because embodiment is a signal of possession. The universe doesn't read your words. It reads your frequency signature. It responds not to your dreams, but to your defaults. And your default is determined not by your effort, but by your emotional baseline. That's what will shift, but not just by thinking differently. Because thinking isn't enough. Feeling isn't enough. Even belief isn't enough. What is enough is coherence. A state where your thoughts, emotions, sensations, and expectations align in one vibrational direction. A unified signal. That's when the field responds, not with delay, but with precision. But wait until you see what happens when we begin to fine-tune that signal in Chapter 2 and decode exactly what the universe is hearing when you're trying to ask for more. Picture this. You walk into a room filled with radios, each playing a different frequency. One emits static, another a love song, another an emergency broadcast. Now imagine you're trying to tune in to just one, say, the love song, but you're also touching the dial, flickering between frequencies every few seconds. That's exactly what your energy field looks like when you're trying to manifest from emotional contradiction. You say you want love, but you're afraid of rejection. You say you want abundance, but you're constantly checking your bank account with anxiety. You say you're ready for the next level, but your nervous system is still wired for survival. This creates what we call vibrational dissonance, a mismatch between your conscious intent and your subconscious broadcast. And the quantum field? It listens only to clarity. Let's be scientific for a moment. In 1991, the discovery of the heart brain, or the 40,000 neurons in the human heart, revealed that our body is not just reacting to the mind, it is broadcasting a coherent electromagnetic field based on emotional state. The HeartMath Institute proved that the heart's field can extend several feet outside the body and can even influence others. Now take that idea further. Your heart is not just creating a field, it's acting as your vibrational transmitter. It's not your words that reach the quantum field, it's your emotional signature. And when your mind says, yes, but your heart whispers no, what arrives is noise, confusion, a mixed signal that collapses no reality at all. This is why many people who practice affirmations, visualizations, and scripting still don't see results. Because they're saying one thing from the head while feeling another in the body. This incongruence creates friction in the field, and quantum reality doesn't respond to friction. It responds to frequency purity. This isn't spiritual poetry, it's physics. Think of wave interference. Two waves vibrating in harmony amplify each other. But if they're out of sync, if they cancel each other out, the result is neutral. Silence. No signal, no collapse. That's what's happening every time you vibrate yes and no in the same breath. Now here's something most people overlook. The subconscious mind, which runs your beliefs and behaviors, is constantly looping on past emotional data. If you've been hurt, rejected, failed, or abandoned, your body memorizes that pattern. And even when your conscious mind says, I deserve more, your body remains locked in the past. Joe Dispenza calls this living in the memory of the known. Your body becomes the record of your past, and your energy, instead of broadcasting the future, keeps replaying yesterday's frequencies. So even if your words say expansion, your field says fear. And the quantum field listens to the louder voice. Let's bring in the spiritual dimension. Neville Goddard taught that the feeling is the secret, that you must assume the state of the wish fulfilled. But what does that mean in practical terms? It means the field doesn't respond to begging or hoping. It responds to embodiment. You don't attract what you want. You become it. You must emotionally and physiologically dwell in the frequency of already having it, even before evidence appears. That's not denial. That's alignment. It's how the quantum mirror works, not by showing you what you're longing for, but by reflecting what you are. But here's the problem, and this is where the confusion truly begins. Most people don't realize they're sending contradictory instructions to the universe 24/7. One moment you visualize with clarity. The next, you scroll social media and compare yourself to others, feeling inferior. One moment you meditate in gratitude. The next, you argue with yourself about your worth. These micro moments of vibrational misalignment create a fragmented signal. And the quantum field, being literal and exact, responds not to your best moment, but to your most dominant frequency. Now here's the pattern. Interrupt you didn't see coming. Most of your manifestation efforts are rooted in one subtle emotion, lack. Even when you say, "I want more money," the emotional undertone is, "because I don't have it." Even when you affirm, "I am loved," the underlying vibration might be, "because I feel lonely." So what you're really doing is reinforcing the absence of the thing you want, while pretending to be positive. And the universe, unable to decipher intention from frequency, just delivers more of the lack you're feeling underneath the words. Let's use a metaphor that hits deeper. Think of the quantum field like a GPS. You tell it where you want to go. Abundance, love, peace. But if your internal coordinates say fear, scarcity, or not enough, the system gets confused. You can't arrive at destination joy if your energetic signal keeps recalibrating to doubt every 5 minutes. GPS works by triangulating clear signals from multiple satellites. Your life works the same way. If your thoughts, emotions, and actions don't triangulate around one coherent vibration, you drift, you loop, you stall, and manifestation becomes an endless road trip to nowhere. But there's something even more crucial. Recent neuroscience reveals that emotional states influence perception, meaning, what you feel determines what you're able to see. If your emotional baseline is worry, your brain literally filters reality through that lens. Even when opportunities show up, you miss them. Even when synchronicities appear, you brush them off as coincidence. So the quantum field may be delivering, but you're not tuned in to recognize or receive it. You become blind to your own answered prayer. And that, perhaps, is the most tragic form of confusion the universe can reflect. So what's the solution? The solution isn't to try harder. It's to become still enough to hear your real signal, and then purify it. To strip away the noise. To notice where you're split inside. Where you want something, but secretly believe you're not worthy of it. Where you're calling in love, but simultaneously guarding your heart. Where you're praying for abundance, but living in mental loops of fear. Only when you bring these unconscious contradictions to light can you begin to choose a single frequency. One that is stable, coherent, recognizable to the field. In the next chapter, we go even deeper into this process and uncover why the universe is not responding to your wish, but to your observation. And once you see what you're really observing most often, you'll realize the power was never in the asking, but in the way you're being watched by your own consciousness. There is something watching you right now. Not a person, not a presence, but something deeper. Your own consciousness. And here's the most radical discovery in quantum physics that spiritual traditions have echoed for centuries. The act of observation changes the outcome. The double-slit experiment proved it. When particles of light are not observed, they remain in a wave state, infinite, unformed, pure potential. But the moment they are observed, they collapse into particles, into form, into matter, into reality. Now take that truth and apply it not to a photon, but to your life, your relationships, your money, your health, your sense of self. They are all in a superposition, a sea of infinite possibilities until you observe them. But here's the part that no one tells you. You're not observing with your eyes. You're observing with your focus, your expectation, your emotional attention. And wherever that observation lands, You collapse one version of reality and eliminate all the others. This is not metaphor. It is physics. The universe is not out there, waiting to act upon you. It is entangled with you, responding to your awareness moment by moment. So when you say, "Why does this always happen to me?" That's not a rhetorical question. That's a command, a collapse, a vote, a frequency that scans the quantum field for a match and finds it. Let's slow this down. You wake up, and before your feet hit the ground, your mind is already observing something. Maybe it's worry about money, regret from yesterday, or dread about the day ahead. Those thoughts, paired with emotion, become a frequency. That frequency becomes an observation. And that observation begins collapsing the day into form, matching the emotion, not the desire. So even if you later affirm abundance, the field already received your first signal, lack, and the field is loyal. It will collapse reality according to your most consistent observer state. It's like this. The universe doesn't eavesdrop on your desires. It mirrors your gaze. Here's a story. There was a young man who wanted to be wealthy. Every morning he would journal, visualize, say affirmations. But nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. One day, while meditating, he caught himself repeating a quiet inner sentence. "I'm afraid it will never happen." That sentence, invisible, automatic, emotionally charged, was his true observation. That was the frequency collapsing his reality. His problem wasn't that he didn't want abundance. His problem was that he was observing from a place where abundance didn't exist. And this is where most people get stuck. They think they're manifesting from desire, but they're actually manifesting from fear. Fear of it not working. Fear of being disappointed again. Fear of getting their hopes up only to see them crash. And that fear becomes the observer. Not the words, not the vision board, but the emotion that's actually holding the gaze. The field doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to emotional attention. And attention, especially the kind charged with emotion, collapses infinite possibilities into one outcome. Let's take it further. Your subconscious mind, which governs over 90% of your behavior and perception, is constantly observing. And what it observes most are patterns. That's how it keeps you safe. If you grew up around lack, it will observe financial stress as normal. If you've been betrayed, it will observe distrust as reality. If you've failed before, it will observe doubt as truth. These observations, repeated thousands of times, collapse similar realities over and over again. Not because you're cursed, but because your inner observer has been trained to expect them. But here's the game changer. You can train the observer to collapse a different world. Bruce Lipton showed that genes don't control your life. Perception does. And perception is nothing more than trained observation. When you change the lens through which you observe, you change the chemicals your body produces, the thoughts your brain generates, the emotions your heart radiates. And all of that shifts the frequency you emit into the field. Suddenly, the probabilities around you begin to reorder. Why? Because the observer is no longer tuned to the past. It's attuned to the new. And the field responds accordingly. Neville Goddard called this assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's not just an act of imagination, it's a shift in the observer. It means you begin to emotionally observe your life as if the manifestation has already occurred, not because you're trying to trick the universe, but because this is the only way to collapse the version where it has. Anything less than that, anything rooted in waiting, hoping, or needing, is an observation of absence, and absence collapses into more absence. Here's the incomplete puzzle most people never solve. They think the key is action, but action taken from a fearful observer state reinforces the same outcome. It's not just about doing, it's about being the one who observes from the end, the one who walks into a room already expecting to be chosen, the one who opens the bank app already trusting there will be more than enough, the one who sees the challenge not as confirmation of failure, but as evidence of breakthrough in motion. Because when you change how you observe, the world must change how it appears. But you might be wondering, what if I don't believe it yet? What if I can't fake it? Here's the truth. You don't need to fake it. You need to practice it. The observer effect isn't a trick, it's a habit. Every time you redirect your emotional focus from fear to trust, from lack to gratitude, from doubt to knowing, you train the observer to collapse a different version of you. And as that version becomes more familiar, the field begins reflecting it back with increasing clarity. So the next time you ask, "Why isn't it working?" pause. Look at the gaze behind the question. Because the universe is working perfectly. It's just reflecting the one who's watching it. And in the next chapter, you'll discover how to recalibrate your entire vibrational system into quantum coherence, and finally become the clear, singular signal the universe has been waiting for. There's a reason your manifestations feel inconsistent, like they sometimes work, sometimes vanish, and often arrive in distorted forms. It's not because the universe is punishing you or testing your worth. It's because your signal isn't stable. You are, energetically speaking, broadcasting from multiple frequencies at once. And when those signals compete, the field responds not with clarity, but with silence, or worse, with a reflection of your internal noise. But what if you could become a single frequency? What if your thoughts, emotions, nervous system, and energetic field began vibrating in harmony, a coherent wave, moving in one direction, with no contradiction? This is what we call quantum coherence, and it's the most powerful state a human being can enter. But to understand it, you need to see what's happening beneath the surface. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field over 60 times stronger than your brain. This field carries not just electrical signals, but emotional information. Every time your heart beats in fear, your field ripples with incoherence. Every time it beats in trust, it radiates order. And your brain, wired for survival, picks up these patterns and matches them with thoughts. So when the heart is chaotic, the mind becomes noisy. When the heart is calm, the mind sharpens. This is not just poetic, it's biology, and it means one thing. Emotional coherence comes before mental clarity, not after. Let me explain with a story. A man spends years trying to manifest success. He reads books, attends seminars, meditates religiously. But inside, he is tense. His body is tight. His breath is shallow. His nervous system is always alert. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not good enough? What if I lose it all? These thoughts, unnoticed, are paired with sensations: constriction in the chest, restlessness in the gut. He visualizes abundance with his eyes closed, but his body is rehearsing failure. That's not coherence, that's contradiction. And contradiction never commands the quantum field. Now here's the pivot. The body has memory. It stores emotional patterns, trauma, doubt, guilt. All of it becomes muscle tension, breathing habits, chemical loops. And unless those patterns are shifted, not just mentally but physiologically, the signal won't stabilize. You can affirm your dream all day, but if your body is still looping on yesterday's survival codes, you'll unconsciously broadcast the past. That's why so many people are manifesting in circles, because they've changed their thoughts, but not their state. Quantum coherence is about entering a vibrational state where your body becomes the physical proof of your future, where your breath, your posture, your emotions, and your inner narrative align with one timeline, not theoretically, biologically. HeartMath Institute calls this heart-brain coherence. It's a measurable state in which the heart's rhythm becomes harmonious, sending signals to the brain that shifted into alpha or theta waves, the same frequencies that open access to the subconscious and increase neuroplasticity. In this state, your immune system strengthens, your hormones balance, your perception changes. But more than that, your energy becomes clean, clear, targeted, and the field, always listening, begins responding immediately. Think of coherence like tuning a laser. A normal flashlight scatters light in all directions, but a laser, same photons, same light, is focused, aligned, coherent. That's why it can cut through steel. Now apply that to your manifestation energy. When you're emotionally scattered, you're the flashlight. But when you're coherent, when you feel, think, breathe, and act from one vibrational truth, you become the laser, focused enough to cut through timelines, sharp enough to collapse reality. But how do you enter that state? The first step is to interrupt the habitual signals, to pause before your nervous system auto-reacts, to feel what you're feeling before it hijacks your energy. Breath is the fastest portal. 3 deep, slow, intentional breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, begins to reset the autonomic pattern. Then bring awareness to your heart, not a thought, a sensation. Place your hand on your chest, feel it. Then bring in a single elevated emotion, gratitude, love, or certainty, not as a performance, as a vibration. You don't need to believe in magic for this to work. The field is listening either way. When you sustain that state for even 3 to 5 minutes, your brainwave patterns shift, your heart rhythms smooth out. Your biochemistry begins reflecting the future you want, now. And this is key. The field doesn't respond to timelines, it responds to frequencies. If you feel like your dream is far away, that becomes the signal. But if you become the dream, emotionally and energetically, that signal becomes now. And now is the only moment where reality collapses. Let's make it painfully simple. You don't attract what you're thinking about. You attract what your nervous system is prepared to receive. And if your nervous system is still coded for chaos, it will reject peace, even when it arrives. If it's wired for lack, it will overlook abundance. If it's expecting rejection, it will sabotage love. Coherence is the antidote. It doesn't just manifest. It recalibrates the entire system to hold a new version of reality without breaking. That's why coherence isn't a practice you do once. It's a default setting you install. And here's your moment of activation. Type in the comments. I broadcast only one signal now. Let the field read your new clarity. Let your body feel what it's like to choose one frequency, not 50. Let your nervous system rest, because rest is the vibration of receiving. And the more you rest in alignment, the more the quantum field begins collapsing realities that match that inner peace. Not later, now. But coherence isn't the final step. It's the doorway. In the next chapter, we go even deeper, into the exact moment where potential becomes real, where infinite versions of you exist, and you must choose which one to collapse. This is the leap most never take. But once you understand how to collapse confusion and step into precision, manifestation stops being a game of chance and becomes a conscious art. In this moment, infinite versions of you exist, not metaphorically, literally. One version of you is healthy and overflowing with vitality. Another is stuck in cycles of fatigue. One is wildly abundant. Another, constantly stressed about bills. One is in love, radiant and safe. Another feels invisible, waiting to be chosen. All of them are real. All of them exist simultaneously in the quantum field, not as fantasies, but as probable timelines. And none of them are guaranteed, because they only collapse into form when you do one thing: choose. With precision, the quantum field operates on exactness, not desire, not effort, not even hope. It mirrors clarity, and most people are so caught in mental loops, emotional noise, and energetic contradictions that they never become a sharp enough signal for any one timeline to collapse. They want love, but expect betrayal. They want wealth, but fear their own power. They want expansion, but obsess over safety. And so the universe, receiving no consistent instruction, collapses the only thing it can: confusion. But here's the secret. The sages, the mystics, the physicists, and the pioneers of consciousness have all echoed. The field doesn't choose for you. You do. You are not waiting for the universe. The universe is waiting for you to become a coherent, committed observer, someone capable of holding the signal of a new reality without breaking. Let's break this down through science. In the double-slit experiment, the unobserved particle remains in a wave state, pure potential. But when it is measured, it behaves like a particle. That act of measurement and/or observation collapses the wave. What's rarely discussed is this: what determines which possibility collapses? The answer lies in the state of the observer. Not just the gaze, and the frequency, the expectation, the vibrational commitment of the one doing the watching. Now take that and place it in your life. Every time you hold a vision of the future you desire, and you do it with emotional certainty, physical alignment, and mental clarity, you are measuring a potential. You are collapsing a wave. And when that focus is precise, when there's no noise in your field, reality must bend to meet it. It has no choice, because in the language of the universe, clarity is law. But there's a catch. You must become emotionally unavailable to all other versions of you. That means the version of you that's always waiting. You no longer feed it. The one who checks for signs, questions every delay, fears that it might not work. You stop entertaining its voice, not with resistance, but with transcendence. Because as long as you keep observing the version of you that's not ready, not worthy, not sure, you keep collapsing it, again and again, with heartbreaking precision. To shift this, you must step into what I call the frequency of decision. Decision is not a thought, it's a frequency, a visceral, cellular command that says, "This is who I am now." No backup plan, no waiting, no asking, just being. And when you enter that state, when your entire system aligns around one identity, one timeline, one chosen self, the field reorganizes. People show up, money moves, opportunities click into place. Why? Because the wave has collapsed. And it collapsed to match you. Here's a practice to help you get there, a ritual, but one based in quantum physics. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Begin breathing slowly. In through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out through the mouth for 6. Repeat this until your body softens and your mind quiets. Now bring into your awareness the version of you who already lives the reality you desire. Not as a fantasy, as a felt experience. See how they move. Breathe. Speak. Notice their posture, their calm, their certainty. Now, here's the key. Don't try to visualize them as something outside of you. Step into them. From the inside, feel their energy wrap around your nervous system like a second skin. Let your breath match theirs. Let your emotions shift into theirs. Let your body begin to believe, and even for a few seconds, that this is not a version you hope to become, but the version you are now observing from. When the emotion clicks in, stay there. Don't rush. Let the signal imprint. Let the field feel your precision. Let your biology take a snapshot of that timeline, because the more you rehearse this, the more that version becomes your default. You're not faking it. You're collapsing into it. Here's what's happening in real time when you do this. Your brain begins rewiring its neural pathways to reflect the new identity. Your heart generates a magnetic field aligned with elevated emotion. Your cells respond with chemical messengers that match your chosen frequency. And your energetic broadcast, the one the field listens to, sharpens. It becomes unmistakable, unshakable, unconfused. And that's when the universe responds. You see, the field doesn't care about time. It doesn't wait for a certain number of days or rituals. It waits for clarity without contradiction. And the moment that clarity becomes emotionally embodied, not just mentally imagined, the quantum reality around you must begin reorganizing. That's not magic, that's coherence applied. But here's the loop you must close. You cannot collapse a new reality if you're still emotionally invested in the old one. The field reads your investments, not your declarations. So you must emotionally divest from suffering, from waiting, from one day. You must withdraw your energy from the identity that delays your breakthrough, not because it's wrong, but because it's done. That timeline has nothing new to teach you. You are not here to prove your worth through delay. You're here to broadcast precision through presence. So ask yourself now, not with hope, but with power, what version of me am I choosing to collapse today? Because that version is already broadcasting. The only question is, will you match it? Or will you keep listening to the static of who you used to be? In the next and final chapter, you'll receive a closing frequency, a reminder that your new self is not a goal. It's a signal already in motion. And when you stabilize that signal, you don't have to chase the manifestation. You become the reality the universe cannot ignore. You don't need to wait for the universe to catch up, because the version of you that you've been chasing is already sending out a signal. Quiet, consistent, unwavering. It's the signal of already done, the signal of embodiment, the frequency of someone who no longer vibrates from desire, but from identity. And that signal, your future self, is not somewhere far in space or hidden in time. It's here, in you, right now, beneath the static. The work is not to find it. The work is to remove what's distorting it. You were never meant to force your reality into alignment. You were meant to become the signal that reality recognizes. That's what quantum manifestation truly is. It's not about attracting, it's about broadcasting. And the question is no longer, how do I get there? The question is, am I stable enough to stay there? Because here's what no one tells you. The manifestation doesn't always arrive in fireworks. Sometimes it comes in a whisper, a knowing, a sudden calm that wasn't there before, a door opening that once felt bolted shut, a phone call at the exact moment your energy says, I'm ready. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. The field is always updating based on the data of your vibration. And your vibration, it's not just what you feel, it's what you normalize. You see, the universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what feels like home. And for many people, lack has been home, anxiety has been home, doubt, survival, proving, chasing, they've all been familiar frequencies. So even when a higher timeline appears, they unknowingly reject it. Not because they don't want it, but because it doesn't feel safe to receive. That's the hidden cost of incoherence. You manifest beautiful things, but you're not able to hold them. That's why the real shift happens not when you get the thing, but when your nervous system stops flinching at the idea of having it. It's when abundance no longer feels like a miracle, but like your baseline. When being chosen in love no longer feels like luck, but like alignment. When peace is not something you try to reach for, it's just your resting state. That's when you know the signal has stabilized. That's when you stop oscillating between timelines. That's when reality begins to show you what it's like to live as your highest self, without resistance. But how do you anchor this shift? How do you turn a moment of coherence into a life of coherence? You ritualize the frequency. You wake up and choose your broadcast, and before the world tells you who to be. You breathe in alignment before checking your phone. You remember what it feels like to be the version of you that's already chosen, already whole, already complete. You let that version of you dictate your posture, your decisions, your pace. And when fear whispers, as it will, you listen, but you don't tune in, because you're already tuned to a higher station. This is mastery, not perfection, but persistence in your chosen frequency. And if this entire journey, from understanding the observer effect to collapsing timelines through coherence, has shown you anything, let it be this. You are not confused. You are not behind. You are not broken. You've simply been broadcasting a frequency that no longer matches who you are becoming. And now, with awareness.
As you step away from this video, remember this. Your reality is not shaped by what you wish for, but by the frequency you embody every moment. The universe does not respond to desires shouted from fear or doubt, but listens deeply to the clarity and coherence of your being. Align your mind, your emotions, and your body into one clear signal. Become the observer who witnesses the future as already here. Your walk towards your dreams is not about force or struggle, but about becoming the calm, coherent energy that invites those dreams into form. You are not chasing reality. You are collapsing it into existence with your focused awareness. So breathe deeply, hold your vision with certainty, and step into the power of your quantum self. The universe is already listening. What reality will you choose to observe next?